you want me to do? This is so stupid. We do this every single week.
Every
Every
week.
week, and you never even use it.
Come on, John, give us something.
Do what?
Act like you're dramatic. Be dramatic. That's good. That was good. Very good.
Folks, thanks for stopping. I know you're busy on your way to the USA versus Scotland match. Sir, you're French. Miss, you are Scottish. Miss, I'll start with you. What do you think of John Layfield?
John Layfield, he sucks.
Sir?
Layfield sucks.
Yeah, so never really been a fan.
But he's the man. He's the man.
John Bradshaw Layfield is the man.
No, I thought you were talking about Cena.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, no, that guy's whatever.
JBL was trash.
Is that his name?
Yeah, JBL.
JBL.
Like the speaker. Yeah.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I missed that last week. And if you hadn't noticed, we were on vacation. Of course you noticed. But if you look in the sponsor opportunity green room, you'll see that JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer-turned-rugby-advocate, is still on vacation because his professional proxy /elevaterugby.com coach Steve Lewis is in his place, and King Gift Egbelu, father of twins, is with him for what's on the Your Company Name Here slate. We also have George Hook calling in from Dublin, so let's get started. And there's Proxy Steve holding his trophy, but Gift is also holding one of his trophies. Gift, who are you holding there?
It's Giovanna. She doesn't like to sleep, except for whenever it is inconveniencing to you. So, yes.
Steve, we know how
she will cry during this recording.
That's all right. So I'm likely to cry during this recording because of what we had to go through to pull it off. And Steve, what are you holding there? I know you're beaming like a proud papa.
This is the Mauritius Sevens Most Amenable Coach Award, as voted by the referees.
Who did you take that from?
All the other coaches.
That's an even better answer. All right, so Proxy Steve filling in for JBL, who's on the golf course or just sleeping, because that's all he does. Yeah. But we had a nice week off, got away from it all, and now we're back. All kinds of stuff going on. Steve, what was your takeaway from the weekend?
Don't schedule international test matches in Washington, D.C. in July.
Oh, because of the heat?
Oh, brutal.
All right, it was better than Houston in June.
Very similar.
Okay. I didn't find the heat that oppressive.
You weren't outside.
I was outside with the people enough to know how hot it was. Okay. But
outside in the booth.
The booth was air conditioned. It was lovely. It was lovely. But I was only in there pregame and halftime. Well, I was there the whole time, but I only had to work halftime and pregame. But anyway, that's it. You just brought up the weather.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of the results were frankly surprising anywhere. I mean, Ireland getting a win over South Africa in dramatic late fashion with 2 drop goals is certainly newsworthy. But again, in terms of results, I don't think there was anything that was untoward or unusual or unexpected.
But as the Scotsman who is making his way in America, what was your take on the USA-Scotland match? Why the hell are you here?
I thought it was underwhelming. I thought as a spectacle, it wasn't great. I thought Scotland put in a sort of workmanlike, efficient, effective performance. 7 tries, 4 of them from close range. They, ground out a win. I thought for the USA, probably a decent result, getting away. It was a strong Scotland team, so US line out performed well. Scrum held up okay, but there isn't much attacking threat in this USA team. So I think if you were neutral, 17,000 is a decent crowd in DC. Both coaches will be sort of. I don't see anyone coming out of it happy or excited.
Well, I was happy and excited. So I thought it was a great crowd. It was a raucous crowd that was cheering for the USA up until the last seconds of the match. Everybody went away kind of, feeling like they're at a fun event. Maybe you and I were just at a different event. I don't know. But also, I want to ask you this. Do you think A.J. McGinty is feeling too much pressure because he's an international star? And is that why he might be struggling? Because he's last 2 kicks last week against Romania and then his first kick this week. Normally, AJ makes those kicks. Am I reading too much into that?
I think you probably are. You know, he's a seasoned professional. I don't think he feels the pressure. He's been in big games before. He's made big kicks before. I just think he's a little bit of a bad run.
All right. Gift, have you had any time to make any observations other than the napping or sleep times of your kids?
Barely. I mean, look, I got to kind of follow up with what Steve said. You know, the Scotland-USA game was basically what was expected. You know, it was nice to not get the result that Canada did the week before, but to kind of still only get one try is a little disappointing in that. I don't really care what the strength of the team, especially now that you have quote, you know, we have professional rugby. So, you know, one would assume there is at least a daily training regimen that would go, but I know there's synchronization and time and international and blah, 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 blah. And then Canada beating Romania kind of actually just hurt the soul. But, you know, again, I don't know where we are as a national team. I wasn't blown away by them, especially whenever you have back-to-back games, basically back-to-back weeks playing the same team. Chile, France, New Zealand, England, Ireland, and South Africa. You know, I assume that you will be able to at least adjust to the team the next week. So to the results, it just felt like, hey, if they beat them, all right, we got a little bit of a balance, but I can't take it as like, you won. Argentina beating France wasn't you won. It was like, you won. Cool. Good deal. Good deal. You know.
Well, all right. Okay. A couple of points I want to make. I think Kingsley Jones, the head coach of Canada, and co. should be very thankful for Scott Lawrence's Eagles giving them the wake up about Romania that they needed. And you got like 6 starters for the New England Free Jacks that are on Team Canada. So those guys were probably, okay, guys, this is a real team that we have to deal with. And maybe an emotional letdown for Romania after that big match and going to Canada. I mean, who wants to go to Canada, right? I mean, good Lord. Does anybody want to go to Canada? I don't think so.
Know what you just said. You're like, there's 6 players from the New England Free Jacks that are on that team. But everybody that's on the U.S. team is a part of the MLR in some way, shape, or form. Yeah,
but they're not all from the same team. So I'm saying those guys have some continuity. You can't get continuity. I don't care how good of a coach you are, unless you're Steve Lewis, who's Elevate Rugby is where you go if you only have a few days to put together a stellar team. But if you are not getting that continuity, I don't care how good you are. I mean, it's like, look at the All-Star games always. You know, it's like, do they click? Do they not click? Those guys have been playing together for the same team. That's 6 of them. That's a big number. So that's a big difference. Plus, they knew Romania. They knew enough to respect Romania. So that's my point. Stephen, what about Japan, the World Rugby darlings, losing at home to my Georgia?
Again, where is the surprise there?
Because Japan's supposed to beat Georgia. Japan's supposed to be this and that and everything else.
I don't see that. I don't see that based on rankings or recent results.
Steve, let me ask, do you think that with Eddie Jones now taking the helm over in Japan, there would have been more expectations for them to come together or to be a little bit more fluid against Georgia versus, or is it kind of like that 2015 shine that initially got caught up with the Eddie Jones Japan is kind of overrun and nobody kind of puts Japan in that underdog situation and you just come with your best and now they have to adjust to that?
All right, so the magic will never be recreated. I mean, you could say, okay, that was lightning in a bottle, right, beating South Africa, but it wasn't. They had World Rugby funding for quite a runway going into that World Cup. All that Japanese team essentially took a year off from domestic and professional rugby and practiced together to Matt's point, cohesion. They had a whole year together and they came up with that performance. Japan are not in that situation anymore because they're not hosting the World Cup and World Rugby are not paying for it. So Japan are now, in terms of preparation, back on the same level as everyone else. So Eddie Jones will not recreate that magic.
On that note, let's break for a commercial and bring in Mr. George Hook after this.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And And we are back. Matt McCarthy and Steve Lewis. And Steve, we have the pleasure, the honor of welcoming back Mr. George Hook. George Hook, everybody. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
George, how's your golf game?
Awful. I mean, you've got me at a bad time. Okay. So I was just awful. Do you want me to start the first? I mean, the golf game lasted 3.5 hours. So if you got time, I can play every shot for you if you wish.
We'll get that when we're at the pub.
Only one thing worse than having a bad golf game, George. That's not having a golf game. That's
All right. So, George, international tests. What are we taking away from these things?
Well, and this won't please you if I go slightly off-piste, right? But as these games were taking place, these major internationals, the World Under-20 Championship is taking place. And remember, they are the next internationals. Now, what are we learning from that, which is interesting? Georgia took the Ireland Under-20s to within 5 seconds of defeat. Australia and South Africa Under-20s losing in the Under-20s to Georgia, to Italy, to what we call second-tier nations. So if the Under-20 Championship means something, we're looking at 10 years down the road at maybe a very different world rugby situation, okay? Because Wales are awful. Then, if you talk about Ireland, and I always hesitate about, showing my true colours, but this was astonishing. Farrell, I've never wanted a non-Irishman to coach Ireland. I've always felt we should have an Irishman. But Farrell has been magnificent. He has produced a team of extraordinary grit, courage, and physical. Like 13 months of non-stop rugby these guys have played. And some of the interpassing skills between backs and forwards has been just unbelievable. They deserve to win. Now, everyone wants to talk about Frawley. I won't talk about Frawley in the same sense, is because that's what he's supposed to do. Ronan O'Gara did it when it counted, Johnny Sexton did it when it counted, and Frawley did it when it counted to drop a goal. It's a pretty difficult skill. To beat South Africa, they didn't score a try. They scored 8 penalty goals, and we got the try and could have had 2. I think it's a fantastic result. Now, on the other side of below the Southern Hemisphere, we had New Zealand put to the pin of their collar by England. So England, after a difficult situation under Jones, Borthwick seems to have settled in. So now we're looking at, in my view, 4 top nations: South Africa, Ireland, New Zealand, and England. And to be honest, the rest are also ran. And may I tell you, dear America...
you have a Scotsman in this panel, George.
Yeah, who did Scotland, for crying out loud? The best they could do is beat Romania. I mean, they didn't even play a serious match. They didn't play a serious match.
All right, let's stay on the rails. Sorry, I took you off.
And sadly, the Eagles are going in the wrong direction. I would actually, and I know I was around at the time, but I'd venture to suggest that the 87 Eagles would beat the Eagles of today.
So would everybody on the 87 Eagles, and they still they're basically saying it in the pubs today anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case or not.
But you can't compare, to be fair. You can't compare the game of rugby 40 years ago with the game now. You can't.
George, you'll see Stephen is raising his hand right now. So let's go to Stephen.
All right. In defense of from whence I come, when the tour's schedule is dictated by the Bank of England, the RFU, which it is, you go where you make money. Scotland aren't the power brokers. Scotland didn't get the prize tour. They're not going to South Africa. They're not going to New Zealand. So what are they going to do? World Rugby insists the unions are going to be on a rotational basis. So England are coming to the US next year. Okay, so they won't have significant tests in the summer. It's just the power brokers doing what they do. Scotland are on a development tour of the Americas. That's it.
Okay, but I just want to know what you think about his dismissing everybody after the 4 teams that he named.
I think he's probably right now.
Interesting, because Scotland has fared very well against England of late.
Oh, England, but that's the problem, is consistency. England, that's different. 4 in a row, easy peasy. But the consistency required to be a top 4 ranked team is something that we do not have.
All right, George, let's change gears a bit. You mentioned off camera to me something about South Africa and infringing on the game. What did you mean?
Well, I was part of a group. It's got to be almost 50 years ago now, in the Irish Rugby Football Union, when there were no substitutions, even for injury. If you lost a player to injury, you were down to 14 men. And it was the opinion of 3 of the greatest Irish coaches of all time, Sid Miller, Tommy Kiernan, and Noel Murphy, that, okay, let's bring in substitution, but for injury. Then we moved a bit more and it became flexible. You could just bring a guy on and bring a guy off, but not in anybody's wildest dreams. Not 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 years ago did we envisage that a whole new pack of forwards would come on halfway through the game. That infringes against the spirit of the game. It moves the game inexorably, which is what professionalism has done. The gap between the NFL and rugby union narrows almost every year. And we're soon going to see a rugby union game which lasts longer than an NFL game. I know I'm old and I'm passionate about the game I love and all that sort of stuff, but nobody can persuade me that it is right to bring on a whole new pack of forwards. I don't think anybody can persuade me that's right.
I mean, I tend to agree with George on this. I don't like replacing whole packs, but if within the confines of the current rules, it makes sense for a coach to do what they're doing. So it's the rules that need to be addressed, not the coaches will always finesse it and manipulate it. So that's what the administrators have to put in guardrails, essentially. And coaches will always find ways around stuff. Then you address it again, then you put in more guardrails. So it's really for the games administration, because a Razzie is a Razzie and the next Razzie will do the same thing.
The good news about this weekend is it didn't work. So therefore, the hope is that all these other coaches, and I see them in Ireland at relatively minor levels of rugby, copying South Africa. Now, if it is proven you don't win every match by having a new pack of forwards at half time, then people will begin to change their mind.
I would agree with that. I think the Rassi thing is it was always going to bite him on the arse, as they say, sometime. Now, if he'd have got 2 or 3 significant back injuries, he'd have been in big trouble, right? You say, oh, we can play Quagga Smith on the wing, and yes, you can. But if you have a second, certainly in 9 and 10, even 15, you have 2 serious injuries, then a third, then this whole experiment crumbles. And that will happen one of these days when they do this.
All right. Well, on that note, we're out of time. Steve, you're staying with us because we're bringing Gift back in. But thanks for coming on, Mr. George Hook, everybody. Thank you. You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now.
Hey guys, what do you think of John Bradshaw Layfield? I think JBL sucks. Who the f is he? No idea.
And we're back. Always great having George, but now we got Gift back. Gift, is that the same child in your arms? Is that Giovanna?
The exact same one.
Okay.
Same one.
They're twins, so it must be difficult to tell the difference, right?
I mean, one's a boy and one's a girl, so, simplicity.
It's difficult. It's like trying to determine between Steve and Felix Unger from The Odd Couple. But anyway, Steven, MLR Playoffs. Who do you like out of New England hosting Old Glory? Old Glory has given New England fits this year.
I like New England. I think they've had a kind of a stop-start season, but they had, been disrupted by injuries. I think they're coming healthy at a good time. I think they'll cover that spread and win relatively comfortably against what I consider a team that's overperformed, Old Glory. John is going with Old Glory and the points because Sheehy Auto Stores, which belongs to Old Glory co-owner Paul Sheehy, rotates his tires.
Okay. Gift.
Yeah, I'm following with New England. I just think that they have a little bit more experience when it comes to the playoffs, and especially when you Old Glory, you're kind of, again, hyping to try and get back into emotion, and they're just not a team that's been good with momentum. Even though they beat New England early, look for New England to take this one. Though, yeah, even at the -9. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to say New England wins this one, but by less than the 9 because Old Glory has given them fits. And you had those 6 players that were playing for Team Canada, whereas Old Glory didn't have as many players gone for Eagles camp. Gift, Houston -6 versus Dallas.
Look, I got Dallas covering covering the spread, but I think Houston wins this one. Houston has kind of slowed down at the end of the season. I think they're going to have to find a way to charge back up. First half is going to be really slow for them. Second half, I think they'll catch their rhythm again. But that rivalry is still pretty good, and obviously they just played 2 weeks ago.
Steve, you look like you're disagreeing with that pick.
Houston by a lot more. Houston by 15.
Yeah, in your face, Gift. In your face. That's ElevateRugby.com's Coach Steve Lewis telling you that you're wrong, and I'm doubling down with him, with the Lizard. I think Houston covers that spread.
Layfield likes Houston here, probably because he had more WWE wins in Houston than in Dallas. Probably still one only.
NOLA, -3 versus Chicago. First playoff game and first home playoff game, obviously, for NOLA. Steve, before Gift kisses their ass, what do you think of this match? It's NOLA -3 at home versus Chicago.
Yeah, I've changed my mind. 3 weeks ago, I would have picked Chicago, but now I'm going with NOLA. I think it's first playoff home game appearance. They'll be excited. They don't have as many international commitments as the Chicago boys. Fawcett, Augsburger, Carty, the people playing. So I think NOLA by 6 or 7. JBL's picking NOLA, or however he pronounces it, NOLA, over Chicago, because his pal, Nate Osborne, used to coach him, I think.
And from what I gather, Fido and Cam Dolan are both back for NOLA this week. Gift.
Yeah, look, you can call it kissing ass. We're just going to say straight up facts. Look, New Orleans got a sold-out stadium. It's the first time they finally got a home game. It's the first time anybody's really, really, really paid attention to the gold. I think they're going to feed into that energy, even though typically I would say New Orleans is a momentum team, and those 2 weeks off is not great for them. But I do think they're going to get this one. I think Chicago's still a team that's inconsistent. So look for New Orleans to be able to really route this one up. And that 3 is probably exactly where it needs to be. Late games are going to be a hard one for New Orleans.
It was a tough one for me because I used to work in Chicago.
And an old department store?
Yes. Oh, hey, everybody. We're not going to sing it anymore. Chicago is a good team, and they're playing well without Sam Harris. They're undefeated without Sam Harris. They have a lot of experience on that team. Who's healthy? Who's gassed? I'll go with the home team. Steve, you talked me into it. Not you, Gift. You didn't talk me into it. Seattle at home, -3. Another tough match to pick. San Diego, the Legion, going into Starfire. Gift will lead off with you on this one.
Yeah, look, man. I've been one of the biggest haters of Seattle for a while, but I think that they run this one. Seattle's just amazing at home. They've been strong all year. The only team that they really haven't been able to deal with is Houston. Hey, give it to Seattle, even though San Diego's trying to make their come up, but Seattle. San Diego tends to choke when it matters most.
Steve, it sounds like the Proud Papa, too, made some sense there. What do you think?
I agree with Gift.
Whoa. I'm going to have to make it a 3 for 3 here because Adrian Balfour will be bothering the hell out of me with phone calls and texts if I pick against his team, and I won't get to stay on his farm. But also, I think the older legs that they're relying on for San Diego in Seattle will not overcome that exuberance from Seattle and that 16th man that is the crowd and the sea wall up there, led by Tony Ridnell.
John likes Seattle, probably because he has a rookie doll.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with our internationals and our picks of the week and get out of here after this.
From New York City comes America's longest-running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap-Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City.
Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we're back, and guys, we're running out of time. Steven, international tests, anyone stand out for you?
I think the Uruguay-Argentina game will be interesting. You know, that's a sort of, a point of pride down there. Uruguay at home with a chance against their big neighbors. Argentina would consider Uruguay the noisy neighbors, so I think that's going to be an interesting game. Argentina to win, but it'll be a good measure of how far Uruguay have come.
And what do you think of Australia so far?
Rebuilding, doing what they have to do. They've beaten Wales twice, but Wales are no great shakes at the moment. Lost 9 in a row.
Gift, who do you like?
Yeah, man, New Zealand versus Fiji. Fiji and Drua are now kind of coming into their full form. I really like Fiji against New Zealand. I do think New Zealand is going to win, just experience. But Fiji is going to give them one hell of a battle that I don't think people are going to be ready for.
Interesting. I would look at the over in that match, but I like Georgia going against Australia. Steve, I was trying to get some inside info from you, milk your wisdom, but I think Georgia plays Australia tough and might even be able to win.
John's international pick is the over in South Africa versus Portugal.
Now it's time for John Bradshaw Layfield's favorite part of the show, Picks of the Week. Steven, who do you like?
Scotland Seaside against Chile.
I hung over Scottish Seaside, right?
Yep, Layfield's pick of the week is the over in the Seattle-San Diego match.
Gift.
Like Brazil versus Hong Kong. This is a good matchup for Brazil. Look at Brazil to actually get the win on this one. Though Hong Kong, China is an actually formidable team on this.
All right. I like the over in the Sabercats versus Jackals match. Over 50 points. And that's it, guys. On that note, I want to thank John Bradshaw Layfield for not being here. Steve Lewis, the proxy for John Bradshaw Layfield, King Gift Egbelu and his budding, growing family, and Irish rugby legend George Hook. And thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including MLR Weekly. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. And please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.